We're a nice, intimate group tonight, so come close. I know. I know. I'll give people, when that goes on, that's our cue. Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Shabbat Shalom.
It's wonderful to have Cheryl here. Is that on?
It is.
Oh, good. So it's wonderful. Thank you all for coming out in the weather and joining us. Cantor Kathy's on vacation, so it's great to have Cheryl here once again. And so we'll join together. We'll start with a nigun, and then we'll invite Elaine Newman up to share announcements.
La 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 ya la 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 ya la la ya la la ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la la ya la la ya la 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 ya la la ya la la ya la 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 ya la 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 Shabbat Shalom Shabbat Shalom Shabbat Shalom ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la la ya la la ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la la ya la la.
We invite Elaine Newman to share announcements with us. I think I turned this one on. You can try it.
Got this one.
Yeah, use that one. That one's better.
Shabbat Shalom. Thank you, Cheryl Eitman, for filling in for Cantor Kathy. It's always a pleasure to have you. The gift shop will be open this Sunday from 9 to 12:15. Rabbi Brown will be joining Rabbi Lipton and Rabbi Sasankan for Israel, Why Should I Care? A panel discussion at the JCC on Tuesday, March 21st at 7 p.m., and you must RSVP. Consider hosting an ONIG to share your special moment with your temple family. Call our Director of Engagement, Kim Williams, if you're interested. And join us on Saturday, which is further away, but the weather will be great and the sun will be shining, May 20th, for our musical fundraiser, Temple at the Troubadour. And you'll be transported back to the times of the 60s and the 70s. Invitations will be going out to members next month. Shabbat Shalom.
We invite Endebar up to light our candles. Hold up our Kiddush cup. We're on page 2 and 3 in our prayer book.
Candles give light to all who behold them. So may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we, in our own day, be among those who kindle light.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר קידשנו במצוותיו וציוונו להדליק נר של שבת.
We turn the page as we raise the Kiddush cup up to sanctify this evening of Shabbat. Kiddush, page 4 and 5.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם בורא פרי הגופן ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר קידשנו במצוותיו ורצבנו ושבת קודשו באהבה וברצון הנחילנו זיכרון למעשה וראשית כי הוא יום תחילה למקרא קודש זכר ליציאת מצרים כיוונו בחרת ויתנו קידשת מכל העמים ושבת קודשך באהבה וברצון הנחלתנו ברוך אתה אדוני מקדיש השבת אמן.
There we go. Got new batteries all around now. So having welcomed Shabbat, we take a moment to turn to those around us, make sure everybody feels welcome, say Shabbat Shalom, introduce yourself to anybody who may be new or you haven't seen in a while. So we are a nice, small, intimate group. On nights like this, I remember my smallest Shabbat attendance ever, which was one of my favorite Shabbatot. I flew into at my student pulpit. Our student pulpits have about usually 30 to 50 families in the whole congregation. So if you get 20 people, that's like high holiday level. And I flew into Washington State, which is where my pulpit was, and it was a blizzard. But I made it. You know, it's amazing where you can get from L.A. to synagogue in Central Washington, but people who are a mile away can't get out of their driveway, right? So it was me and two people. It was great. I think we didn't even turn the lights on. We just had Shabbat candles on a little table, and we did the service together, and we had some challah, and it was lovely. It was one of my favorite Shabbatot ever. So it's really nice. I always think of that Shabbat on nights when the weather doesn't work with us and we're here and we're with, it doesn't feel like all the crowd, like, where is everybody on Shabbat? Well, sometimes it's nice. You got a few people. We get to have it together. So it's a nice, intimate Shabbat. So let's sing page 10, Hine Matov, how good it is for us to be with each other.
הנה מה טוב ומנעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומנעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומנעים, 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 שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב, הנה מה טוב, יאללה לי 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 לי. הנה מה טוב, הנה מה טוב, יאללה לי 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 לי. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד.
We turn to page 20 for the words of Lechadodi. We'll be doing verses 1, 2, 3, and 9. And when we reach verse 9, we'll face our door to our sanctuary. Or for those who are at home, you can face the entrance to your house as we'll welcome Shabbat into our sacred spaces. Page 20 and 21.
לך דודי לקראת קלה, יללי, 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 פני שבת, נקבלי, יי, יי, יי. לך דודי לקראת קלה, יללי, 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 פני שבת, נקבלה. איי, איי, שמור וזכור, בדיבור אחד, השמיענו אל המיוחד. אדוני אחד ושמו אחד, לשם ותפארת ולתהילה. לך דודי לקראת קלה, יללי, 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 פני שבת, נקבלי, יי, יי, יי. לך דודי לקראת קלה, יללי, 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 פני שבת, נקבלם. איי, איי, לקראת שבת, לכו ונלכה, כי היא מקור הברכה. מראש מקדם ניסוחה, סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה. לך דודי לקראת קלה, יללי, 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 פני שבת, נקבלי, יי, יי, יי. לך דודי לקראת קלה, יללי, 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 פני שבת, נקבלם. איי, איי, מקדש מלך, עיר מלוכה, קומי צאי מתוך ההפכה. רב לך שבט בעמק הבכה, והוא יחמול עלייך חמלה. לך דודי לקראת קלה, יללי, 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 פני שבת, נקבלי, יי, יי, יי. לך דודי לקראת קלה, יללי, 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 פני שבת, נקבלם. איי, איי, בואי ושלום, עטרת בעלם, גם בשמחה ובצהולה, תוך אמוני עם סגולם. בואי חלה, בואי חלה. לך דודי לקראת קלה, יללי, 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 פני שבת, נקבלי, יי, יי, יי. לך דודי לקראת קלה, יללי, 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 פני שבת, נקבלה.
Can remain standing, page 26.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבם, ויעמד דברי חירותי, וימליך מלכותי. בחייכון וביומכון, ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בגלה, בגלה, ובזמן קריב, ויאמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבא מבורך, לעולם עולם מעלמיה, יתברך, יתברך וישתבח, ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתעלה, שמי לקודשא בריחו לעילה, מן כל ברכתה ושירתה. תושבחתה ונחמתה, תמירן בעלמא, ויאמרו אמן.
We turn to page 28 as we face east. We share the words of our call to worship, the Baruch Hu.
Yai la la lai 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 lai. Yai la la lai 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 lai. Yai la la lai lai lai. Yai la la lai lai lai. Yai la la lai 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 lai. Yai la la lai lai lai. Yai la la lai lai lai. Yai la la lai 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 lai. ברכו את אדוני המבורך, ברוך אדוני המבורך, המבורך לעולם ועד. המבורך, המבורך לעולם ועד.
Page 30. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim b'chokhmah poteach sha'arim, uvidvuna meshaneh itim umachalif et hazmanim, umsader et hakochavim b'mishmaroteim barakia kirtzono. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, power in our world, who allows us to notice the change from day to evening, as well as the changes in our lives every day. May we make those a blessing. May we be thankful for all that you have given us. Baruch atah Adonai, Hama'ariv, Aravim. Please join me as we say together at the bottom of page 33. Wisdom and wonder, passion and instruction, story and symbol, all these things your Torah gives to us. And the more we devote ourselves to it, the more it grows and gives. What could be a truer token of your abiding love than this holiest of your works and the living language that gives it form? Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. Page 34 and 35.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem, Kivod Malchuto, Leolam Vaed.
Please be seated. Page 36. We'll join together in the words of Yahavta.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם. בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכתך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
Join with me at the top of page 39. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands and marching together. Page 40.
מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש, מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש. נורא תהילות אוסף אלה, נורא תהילות ימלוך לעולם ועד. מלכותך ראו בניך, בוקע הים לפני משה. זה אלי ענו ויאמרו, זה אלי ענו ויאמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש. מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש. נורא תהילות אוסף אלה, נורא תהילות אוסף אלה, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד.
Page 42. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. We take these words, the words of Hashkivenu, as we enter into our evening. We pray not only that this day is peaceful, but that tomorrow we wake up to life even more renewed. Page 42.
השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום, לשלום, והעמידנו מלכנו לחיים. וברוס עלינו סוכת שלומך, וברוס עלינו סוכת שלומך. Amen. Shelter us beneath thy wings, O Adonai. Guard us from all harmful things, O Adonai. Keep us safe throughout the night, till we wake with morning's light. Teach us, God, wrong from right, O Adonai. Amen. 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 השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום, לשלום, והעמידנו מלכנו לחיים. וברוס עלינו סוכת שלומך, וברוס עלינו סוכת שלומך. Amen.
We turn to page 46. Prayer invites God's presence to suffuse our spirits, God's will to prevail in our lives, and while it may not bring water to parched fields or mend a broken bridge or rebuild a ruined city, we believe that it can water an arid soul, mend a broken heart, rebuild a weakened will. Please rise in body or in spirit now as you would like, page 46, as we turn to these most serious words of our service, words that call upon the names of our ancestors and words that call upon us to add our own words to these prayers. Our Amidah, page 46.
Adonai, siftai tiftachu fi agidilatacha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, v'Elohei Yaakov, אלוהי שרה, אלוהי רבקה, אלוהי רחל ואלוהי לאה, האל הגדול הגיבור והנורא, אל עליון, גומל חסדים טובים, וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם בעזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה, רב להושיע, משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם. מחכה חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומי דומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישוע, ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיי הכל.
אתה הקדוש ושמך הקדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלע, ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש. Please be seated. Page 55. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day, and may this day fulfill its promise. Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat. Page 60. Words that in a few moments we'll, in some ways, hear echoes of in our Torah portion. The sense of when things are overflowing. The Torah portion is about gifts that are overflowing in the building of the tabernacle. This is about the idea that we can look forward into the future aspirationally, something also I'll talk about tonight about the Declaration of Independence for the State of Israel. It was written in a similar way to this prayer. It was written with the belief that the Jewish nation state would be a place that was not just a light unto other nations, but actually a place that was a pure example of what it looks like for a country to be built around moral and ethical values, for a society to coexist, not only with people who are of different religions and cultures, but also, as it says in the Declaration of Independence, to coexist with all of their neighbors, even knowing that their neighbors don't always like them. Shalom Rav is a similar statement. It says we should look forward to the future and know that things can be better, if not perfect. Page 60, we think of all the broken parts of our world and pray that these words can become true.
Shalom Rav, Shalom Rav, al Yisrael amcha, tasim leolam. Shalom Rav, al Yisrael amcha, tasim leolam. Ki ata hu melech adon, lechol hashalom. Ki ata hu melech adon, lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav, al Yisrael amcha, tasim leolam. Shalom Rav, al Yisrael amcha, tasim leolam. V'tov b'einecha levarech et amcha Yisrael b'chol עת ובכל שעה b'shlomecha. Shalom Rav, al Yisrael amcha, tasim leolam. לעולם. שלום רב על ישראל עמך, תשים לעולם. תשים לעולם. תשים לעולם.
Take a moment for our own personal prayers.
עושי שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל.
Shabbat Shalom. We're going to read our Torah now. We're reading the last. It's a double portion this week. The way the Jewish calendar works, occasionally we got to double up. So this week it's we double up. So we finished the book of Exodus. Last week was the golden calf. If you were at services on Friday night or Shabbat morning, we had our bat mitzvah, gave a great speech on the golden calf. This week is in some ways thought to be the reaction to the golden calf. It is a continuation of over and over again the phrase that is repeated is that the people will give gifts if they so desire, of their own free will. The part that we'll be reading is a section that I think we often skip over this part. Maybe it's a little unbelievable to us. Believe it or not, the people gave too many gifts. They have to cap it off. Moses eventually says, "Stop giving stuff. You're overwhelming us with all that you're giving. We can't do enough with it. So stop giving us stuff." It's something that's never ever happened since that time in Jewish fundraising campaigns. But I share it because I do think we can look at it, especially as we look at the world today, and think of how many ways we stop giving, not just money. Perhaps take money out of the equation. What are the things that cause us to just stop engaging? We see things we don't like, so we back out. We look at what's happening in Israel, we'll talk about tonight, and we say, well, you know what? It just doesn't make me feel good, so I'm just not going to deal with it. It seems that in the Torah, the people are in the wilderness, and they're asked to give, and they won't stop until they are forced to. That's how ambitious, let's say, they are. That's how passionate they are. And so one of my questions for us tonight is, can we harvest some of that energy on the issues that are important to us but might frustrate us so much that we just want to focus on other things? Can we keep giving of ourselves in some way for things that we care about, but things that may not be going the way we want them to, until we find that the project is done? So that'll be, I'll share those words from the Torah and I'll translate it as we go. It's got some great, interesting Hebrew words in it that you can really play with a little bit. We'll carry the Torah around our congregation, of course, and invite you to reach out and touch the Torah if you would like. And then I'll share a few words on Israel this evening and hope to help us connect with the state, but also understand a little bit of what's going on. So please rise as we'll start our Torah service, beginning page 246 in the prayer book if you want to follow along.
כי מציון תצא תורה, כי מציון תצא תורה, ודבר אדוני מירושלים. ברוך שנתן לתורה תורה, ברוך שנתן לתורה תורה, לעמו ישראל בקדושתו. שמע ישראל, אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד, אחד אלוהינו, גדול אדוננו, קדוש שמו. גדלו לאדוני איתי, ונרוממה שמו יחדיו. לך אדוני הגדולה והגבורה והתפארת והנצח והוד. כי חול בשמיים ובארץ, כי חול בשמיים ובארץ. לך אדוני הממלכה והמתנשא לכל ראש. על שלושה דברים, על שלושה דברים, על שלושה דברים העולם עמיד. על התורה ועל העבודה ועל גמילות חסדים. על התורה ועל העבודה ועל גמילות חסדים.
You can be seated if you'd like. The blessing is found on page, I'm doing it from memory here, I think 250. Baruchu et Adonai hamvorach. Baruch Adonai hamvorach leolam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'torah. Amen. V'yavo'u kol ha'chochmim ha'osim et kol ha'malechet ha'kodesh. All of the, you might know the term hacham or hachamim is we usually say the smart people, the wise ones. But here it's ha'chochmim ha'osim, the gifted people who do things. It's often translated artisans, the doers. I think of it as doers, not the givers, because the people have already, in the previous verses, the people are giving. They're giving of the part that we're not getting to today, is the people are giving of their own free will. So now we get to the osim, the doers, right? So we can all think of the people in our world who are the doers, and these are the really smart doers. So the smart doers, who are doing all of the work of the sanctuary, of the tabernacle, they come forward. Ish ish mimlachto asher hema osim. Each man, ish ish is two separate words. Ish ish means every man, if you translate it literally, it makes it sound like it's like one after the other. One translation I looked at actually said, each person stopped their work one after the other to come complain, essentially, to Moses. Vayomru, and they say, El Moshe, to Moses, Lemor. Merabim ha'am lahavi midai ha'avodah lemalacha asher tiva Adonai la'asot ota. Moses, so many people have come forward and brought their things, midai, like almost like dayenu. Enough. It's enough. So much so that the work that we are doing, we can't keep up with the work which Adonai commanded us to do for this. It's sort of interesting, the way I read it at least. They say la'asot ota. It's like they don't say, they could be formal and say all the work that God asked us to do for the tabernacle. They could use the Hebrew word mishkan like we have outside. But they don't say that. They say for it, like we know what it is. I read it as like filled with emotion. They're complaining to Moses. These people have brought too much stuff. I'm the artisan, the wise doer. I can't do it all. It's too many things. Let me make sure I'm in the right place. V'yitzav Moshe v'ya'aviru kol b'machaneh lemor. So Moses commanded, speaking his voice over the entire encampment of the people. Remember, there were some roughly 3 million people, so Moses must have had a big voice, even though we were told he didn't speak so well. So now Moses is speaking out, commanding the entire people, lemor, saying, Ish ve'eshet. So now he includes the women. Look at this, Moses being progressive. He says, men and women, al ya'asu od, no more work. Stop it. Do not do any more malacha truma hakodesh, of the work of giving to the sacred sacred space, the Mishkan, the tabernacle. V'yachla ha'am mahabi v'hamlacha haita dayam lechol hamalacha la'asot otav v'hoter. And so therefore, the people stopped bringing things forward, and they found that what they had brought was, it says, otav v'hoter, it's like more than enough. What they had done was more than enough. So I want to frame this in terms of, if we think about two types of people the Torah portion seems to be thinking of. There are the people who give. Here, they give seemingly endlessly. They're giving so much that the workers can't keep up with it. And then you've got Moses, the leader, and the people who are responsible for building the sanctuary in the wilderness. Because the rest of the Torah portion, if we read the rest of the Torah portion, it's another one of these portions that's an architect, engineer's dream. It's like all the details of how you put all these things together, right? This is the section that sort of sets it up. And then we say, well, this is how you put together the poles, and this is how you put together the stand, and so it's all these details. People brought so much stuff, the workers had to say, stop, we've got everything we could possibly need. When does that happen? Where there are those who give so much that those who are doing the work itself actually say, too much. We gotta tell you to stop giving. I don't know if we can think of many times when that's happened in our lives, but that's what happens in the Torah. So join me in the closing blessing of the Torah portion. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. With our Torah out, we'll take a moment to offer the strength of this story to those who are in need of healing, as we'll share our Misha Berach prayer. And in the midst of our prayer, we'll invite you to say any names of those loved ones or friends of yours who are in need of healing at this time. Page 253.
משברך אבותינו מקור הברכה לאמותינו. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, Help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen.
If you have a name you'd like to share, please share it as we look around the room. Dory Hoffman.
Mi shebeirach imotenu mekor habracha leavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shelema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
So I was at a meeting earlier this week, and there was a speaker, actually it was through the American Jewish Committee, the AJC, and it was, if some of you may remember, we had Belle Yoeli speak to our congregation a year ago or so, and they invited Belle to join us by Zoom. She was giving an update on one of her areas of expertise is the constantly changing situation in Israel. So for probably many of you are familiar with this, but a lot of times when we'll be talking to people about Israel in the last, 20 years, we might say, well, how's the situation in Israel? Well, the moderator started by saying, I can't say how's the situation in Israel, I have to say how are the situations. And then I have to explain which situation I'm talking about, because there's so many things going on in Israel right now that if I just asked you, Belle, tell us how things are going in Israel or what's the situation, you wouldn't know how to respond. So it used to refer just to the Palestinian-Israeli conflict, just. Today it could refer into, you may have read in the news, Iran and Saudi Arabia formed an agreement with the help of China. Netanyahu has his own legal troubles, and any number of his cabinet members have even worse legal troubles. There's almost every day, it seems, there's another article about some sort of challenge in his cabinet. We've seen elections in Israel. I didn't look up how often, but it seems like it's almost annually now that we get new elections, which means that it's really a sign of the way in which, much like America today, the Israeli public is so polarized that their coalition government can't stay together, right? That the people say, nope, we've got to elect a new leader. You can imagine in America the same thing would happen. We tend to talk about approval ratings. If you imagine every time the approval rating of our leading government officials went below 50%, we had a new election, we'd be having elections every 2 months, right? But what most people are talking about today when they talk about the situation is a series of laws that are being proposed and in the process of being passed that particularly have to do with the role of the Supreme Court. Israel's government in some ways is set up in a less complex way than ours, or at least with fewer checks and balances. So the way I think about it is they have the executive branch and they have the judicial branch. They don't have Congress to oversee the two. So you don't have 3 legs on the stool, you have 2. Over the last 20, 30 years, the judicial branch has become very, very powerful, and they've struck down a number of laws that the executive branch has put forth. And now the executive branch is pushing back pretty strongly, and some of the laws that they propose it's complicated, and I'm happy to share resources. I'm hoping to do that in the coming weeks. That'll let you dive deep into it if you like to dive deep into these things. But loosely speaking, the challenge is that in weakening the judicial branch of government, that the political branch, the executive branch as we would call it, would be able to override a decision made by the courts. Imagine in our system what we would say is, imagine that the President of the United States and his or her one day cabinet could overrule the Supreme Court. That's my best understanding in the simplest form as to what the challenge is. And there have been a number of red flags that have been thrown up by, I know one of the great current Israeli intellectuals, Yuval Noah Harari, who's a professor at Hebrew University. He's written a number of great books. One is called Sapiens, the other is called Homo Deus. They're great book. We've studied them in Torah study. He's a great Israeli scholar. He wrote in an article in the Washington Post this week, he said, I've had many opportunities to leave Israel for my scholarship. I've never considered leaving Israel to live somewhere else, but now, because of what's happening, I worry that in the future, something I write might cause me to be expelled. I might want to live somewhere else. There were a number, this made the news relatively prominently, a number of the Israeli Air Force reservists refused to go into service, in part out of protest and in part because they wanted to go to the protests in which hundreds of thousands of people are marching in the streets. Culturally, the Israeli Air Force is the premier elite force within Israel's military. It would be, in my opinion, like Americans saying 5-star generals decided not to show up for work out of protest. These are people revered for what they do. There are plenty who disagree with them. It's not as though it's one-sided. So when I think about this and I think about our Torah portion, I think about those two groups. Because I ask, where are we supposed to be? We're far away, and I know many times I've said things about Israel to Israelis, to friends, and they say, look, you don't live there. It's different. If you don't live there, you can't really understand what's going on, and you can't criticize from afar. But I think in that sense, the Torah portion gives us a good metaphor. There are people who are not involved in the building of Israel, who aren't involved in voting for Israel, Israeli politicians who aren't paying Israeli taxes, but who give of our own free will and of our heart and our love for the state of Israel. And then there are those who are doing the work. So we have to trust them, but that doesn't mean that we back off. And we certainly don't back off just because we don't like what's happening. So I was trying to think, how do we understand our commitment? Israel this year is turning 75. So I looked back. This is a good history test. Anybody really strong in history? This will be a good test. Anybody remember what the Compromise of 1850 was? No? I had the benefit of Google, so that was... You remember? Yeah? No, say it. You get extra points. Yom Kippur points. You get to go to the bathroom twice during the service. Good. So, Harvey's right. Winner. Impressive. I'll call Harvey now instead of Googling things. So the Compromise of 1850. So the reason I found this was I just wanted to know, where was America when we were age 75? Israel's at the age, they're 75. So where were we? Compromise of 1850 did three important things. One, it welcomed the state of California as a free state, meaning a state that did not accept slavery. Okay? Sounds good, right? Second, reason why it's called a compromise, it enacted the Fugitive Slave Act, which meant that in a state that was free, if there was a slave who had escaped, that slave had to be returned to their owner in a slave state. And third, it said that you could not trade slaves in the District of Columbia, even though you could still have slaves in the District of Columbia, you just couldn't sell them. My point in saying it is, it's interesting to compare. We say, at age 74, because we weren't quite 75 yet, at age, really 74 and a half, if you want to be specific, at age 74 and a half in our country, we were welcoming states that were free, and we were empowering states to get their slaves back who had slavery. That's where we were at 74. So where is Israel today, and how can we be a country, brethren and friends, who can maybe offer our wisdom to say to them, we know where you are in some ways, but we also know where you're going, because 11 years later, Harvey, what? What's 11 years after? The Civil War starts. See, I don't have to ask Google anymore. So here's what we know. We know that when we made the compromise at age 74, that at age 85, we were in a civil war. We know what happens when the community and the country are divided in such a way that they can't come together, and it wasn't good. So one way to engage is to care, because we don't want you to go down that path. The second is to offer our own commitment to stay close. It's something we've talked about a lot before in a lot of different contexts. I'll share briefly. Some of you who were at the Interfaith Justice series on Wednesday night heard this story. It was shared by an Akron police officer. He shared it in a different context, but I think it fits. He shared that he had gone to Europe a few years ago, and he had a run-in with the police there. He didn't do anything wrong. He lost his keys. But anyway, the police were called, and he noticed, he was talking to the police officers, and he said, look, I'm a police officer back in America. And their comment immediately was, that's the wild, wild west over there. That's crazy. I can't believe you choose to be a police officer in a place that has so many violent deaths. Now, I don't think, even though we can talk about all the facts and the way in which America might fit that description, I don't think that's how we feel living in our homes every day. In other words, I talked to my friend who just finished a sabbatical. He was in Israel for 3 months. And I said, what was it like? I've heard there's hundreds of thousands of people marching in the streets. The Air Force pilots are leaving their jobs, and they're going to these rallies, and you see all these pictures. He said, Josh, if you didn't go show up at the rally, you wouldn't know it was happening. In other words, life is going on as normal. In Israel, people are doing what they normally do. Just like in Akron, you could look up the statistics on how many people have been shot in the last month in our city, and all of us would say it didn't stop me from doing anything I was already doing. So we can look at it from afar and say things are terrible, but if we were living there, chances are we'd say life is going on as if it's normal. This is a problem, but let's not paint the whole picture as though the whole place is in uprising and the state's not going to last another month. And finally, can we look towards, as I mentioned at Shalom Rav, the aspirational goals of the state? So perhaps this is a different question. If we're thinking of the Torah portion, we say, well, we are going to be the givers, the people who don't give up. We're going to keep giving until somebody yells at us and says, stop giving us your commitment or your money, or stop coming over here. You guys are bothering us too much. We can't handle all the ways in which you are helping us out. At what point would that happen? And I think the best document and the strongest Zionist document that we have, unfortunately, there's no constitution in the state of Israel, not yet. But in the Declaration of Independence, they were very intentional about what they saw for what they wanted the state to be. I'm not going to read the whole thing because it's not short. But here are two, I think, wonderful passages from the Declaration of Independence. The state of Israel will ensure complete equality of social and political rights to all its inhabitants, irrespective of religion, race, or sex. This is in 1948. It will guarantee freedom of religion, conscience, language, education, and culture. It will safeguard the holy places of all religions, and it will be faithful to the principles of the Charter of the United Nations. Therefore, we appeal to the Jewish people throughout the diaspora to rally around the Jews of Israel in the tasks of immigration and building up our land, and we promise to stand by them in the great struggle for the realization of the age-old dream, the redemption of Israel. There are a lot of things that we're going to have to struggle through in the coming months. There are challenging situations. There are politics in Israel that will threaten to divide us in ways. But we have a long tradition of working hard, of making immense sacrifices, of doing more and more and more work until somebody yells at us to stop because we finally have run through the finish line and are way beyond it, and we aren't there yet. So I pray that we can be so diligent in this work. I invite all of you to join us on our Israel trip next year for precisely that reason, in all seriousness. If you're able, one of the great ways to be close to what's going on, to understand it, to show commitment, is to be there and to bring that sense home. But for most of us, that's not realistic. So I encourage you to carve out time to learn about what's going on, to read the articles, to come to the dialogue we're having Tuesday night at the JCC with all three rabbis, to our speaker on Wednesday, who's an Israeli author. We have a men's group coming up, I was reminded today as I had to look at the calendar, in April, where we're going to go through this wonderful article that was written by Rabbi Daniel Hartman about the way in which American Jews are self-selecting in our relationship to the Jewish state. We have to keep giving of ourselves, even when we disagree and are frustrated, until somebody says to us, looking at the Declaration of Independence, Dainu, we've reached it. It's enough. Things are so good here, we don't need your help anymore. Just come sit on our beaches. But we aren't there yet. So I pray that that day will come in our lifetime, and I pray that we'll be part of the solution. Shabbat Shalom. Please join me as we stand and raise our Torah, returning it to the Ark. I'm going to invite Elaine Newman, our co-president, to help me dress the Torah.
וזאת התורה אשר שם משה לפני בני ישראל על פי אדוני ביד משה. לה 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 יה לה 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 יה לה 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 יה לה 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 יה לה 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 לה. את חיים היא למחזיקים בה ותומכיה מאושר דרכיה דרכי נועם וכל נתיבותיך שלום. השיבנו אדוני אליך ונשובה חדיש חדיש ימינו חדיש ימינו כקדם.
Page 282, Aleinu.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
Please be seated. our thoughts now to those that we've loved and lost. Particularly those that we've lost in this last month in the period of Shloshim. We remember Russell Claiborne, Lois Noble, Stephen Heyman, and Frida Guerin. We add to their names Herman Aronson, Lena Averbach, Joseph Baer, Ida Block, Milton Block, Ruth Kasten, Robert Schwartz, Shirley Felder, Saul Fox, Molly Frank, Sidney Freeman, Anthony Friedman, Meyer Friedman, Moses Goodman, J. Annie Granatstein, David Green, Frida Greenberg, A. Heimlich, Lois Holtzel, Paul Canfer, Neil King, Melvin Levy, Irvin Lieberman, Harry Meltzer, Minnie Mervis, Melvin Meerman, Ruth Moss, Alex Rosen, Flora First Rosenfeld, Henry Rossen, Sherwin Rubin, Irving Sands, Selma Schoenfeld, Samuel Schwartz, Leah Seltzer, Abe Stein, Bessie Swedler, Sina Triber, Tessa R. Union, Sigmund Wachner, and Blossom Waxman. If there are names you'd like to add, please share them. We honor those loved ones that we've lost with the words of Mourner's Kaddish, page 294. Please rise. Yitgadal v'yitkadash me rabba. Be'alma divrach erutei v'yamlich malchutei. B'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chaye dechol beit Yisrael. B'agala uv'izman kari v'imru. Amen. Yehe shmei rabba mevarach le'olam almei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei dekudesha b'richu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechamata. Damiran be'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehe shlama rabba min shemaya. V'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. V'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav. Huya say shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. V'imru. Amen. Having connected with those that we've loved and lost, we connect with each other as we bless each other with the words of the priests.
Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha.
May God bless you and keep you.
Yair Adonai panav elecha v'choneka.
May God's light shine upon you, and may God be gracious unto you.
Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom.
May you feel God's presence within you always, and may you find peace.
Amen.
While we remain standing, we'll do a quick Shekianu. I want to invite Jim Nelson forward. He doesn't know I'm inviting him forward. I believe you're leaving this week, yes? Yeah. So come on forward. It's worth it. Are we allowed to share your age? Will you let us share your age? We don't have to. That's a no. We won't share your age. Jim is not 21, but he's 22. But he is flying to Australia this week to see his daughter and taking a nice stop in Hawaii on the way back. Is that right? Am I remembering right? So we send you with great blessings. We hope you travel there safely, that you travel back safely, and we're thrilled that you get to have time with your kids. So for all of the times, the good times that we get to have together, let's share. For all of the good things that we have going on in our lives, whatever they may be, the words of Shekianu we say together.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehechian
V'kiyamanu v'higianu lazman hazeh.
Amen.
Safe travels. I want to don't you stay up here? You can help us with the challah. So we'll have the kids join us. We have a few. Are the kids still in here? Did they stay? They left. They left. They drove home. The kids drove home. That's okay. So join together. We'll share the words of Motzi and then Adon Olam together. Please join us.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam,
Motzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. Shabbat shalom, everybody. Join us in Adon Olam.
Adon olam asher malach b'terem ko yitzir nivra li'ed nasa v'chefzo kol azai melech shemo nikra azai melech shemo nikra ואחרי ככלות הכל לבדו ימלוך נורא והוא היה והוא הווה והוא יהיה בתפארה והוא יהיה בתפארה בידו אבקיד רוחי בהי תשען ויעירה ואם רוחי גביעתי אדוני לי ולא יירא אדוני לי ולא יירא. שבת שלום.